Hey there, guys, it's me, Old Movie Master. If you saw my last video, I mentioned some of the worst movies of 2017. 2017 was a really bad year in cinema. Like I mentioned when I closed that video, every year you're going to have bad movies, but I feel like with each coming year, movies are getting worse because there's more venues, there's no quality control. There's movies on Netflix, on Amazon, on VOD. Anybody can make a movie now, and a lot of them are really bad. But there were some good gems. There's some good movies that I saw that I really enjoyed. A couple of movies that I didn't get a chance to see that I do plan to watch. They're on my watch list. One of them is Three Billboards in Ebbing, Missouri. I haven't seen that yet. Shape of Water, I haven't seen yet. The Darkest Hour. So those are the ones that I didn't get a chance to see. And I'm pretty sure there's others. But the ones that I did see surprised me and left me with a smile on my face. These are movies that gave me a hope that cinema is going to improve. An honorable mention is a movie that a lot of people loved. Everyone loved this movie. I haven't met anybody who disliked it. And the movie is It, the remake of the TV series, or you can say it's a readaptation. It's another adaptation of the book. However you like it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great horror movie. It really surprised me. I like the Tim Curry version. A lot of people say it's very cheesy and corny, and they didn't understand why people were afraid of it when they were kids. Um, I like the scenes when they're kids. Once they become adults, it becomes really ridiculous. Um, but I still think it's a good movie. The remake, I thought was amazing. I thought it was well done and it had some really effective scares. But there's a lot of jump scares and a lot of CGI that I didn't think it worked. But other aspects I thought were really good. The guy who plays the clown, I forget his name. I think his last name is Skarsgård. Did an amazing job. He did a good job, and it was really creepy. I saw people screaming. I'm no longer affected by horror movies. I've seen horror movies all my life, so they really don't have an effect on me on scaring me. Like for the most part, I just laugh. But other people get creeped out and they jump and whatever. Um, I thought it was great, but it didn't make it on my top 10. But there are other movies that made it into my list. But a movie that made it onto this list that I really liked was with Mark Hamill. And I saw this movie because of Mark Hamill, but he doesn't have a big part in this movie. He has a really small part. The movie's called Brigsby Bear. This movie surprised me. This was actually a pretty good movie. I don't want to tell you too much about this movie, and don't watch the trailers. Don't read up anything. I will say this: if you like '80s nostalgia and you like, you know, filmmaking and the process of making movies, you're gonna like this movie. It's basically about this guy who loves a show called Brigsby Bear, and it abruptly ends for a specific reason that I can't say because it ruins a specific plot point in the movie. And he's on a journey to make that movie, to make the last episode, to make the final episode of Brigsby Bear. And the whole story about Brigsby Bear is this giant teddy bear who saves the day in this alien like world. It's very cheesy. And he's trying to learn how to make movies, and he's very innocent, and he doesn't really understand how the world works. And it's a charming movie. Not many people knew about this movie. Again, I saw it only because of Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill isn't in the movie that much. It's really this guy who's making this movie, and it was great. I was really surprised by how good it was. Number nine is a movie that I don't love, but I do like a lot of things in it. The way it's written, the way it's structured. It's follows a very rigid three-act structure, and the movie is called Ladybird, and it's probably gonna get a bunch of awards and a whole bunch of Emmys or whatever, not Emmys, Golden Globe nominations if it hasn't gotten already. And it's a good movie. It's don't get me wrong, because it seems like I'm being well, I'm kind of including this movie on this list because I have to. Now, it's a good movie. It's a story of a girl who's trying to find herself, and she's very spoiled. entitled, and she has to learn. So the reason why I say it follows a very rigid three act structure is because you're seeing her going through the motions of what an act tells you. Like, you introduce her problem. Her problem is that she wants to leave her hometown. She wants to explore, and you see her go through a turning point where she has to stay, and her parents don't have money. You know, they can't provide for everything that she wants, and uh, she's very selfish. So, and then she eventually has her lowest point, and I don't want to reveal too much about the movie, but the way she finally redeems herself, because that's what you do in a typical 3 act structure. You know, your character has to change, it has to have a character arc, and her arc was very weak, and I felt it was kind of abrupt at the end. But everything else before that was really well done. Everyone around her acts very well. The dialogue is very very witty. You know, you hear his dialogue like, this is well written. This is actually really good. You can tell someone lived this life, because apparently the director, I forget her name, but she was in France. She did Frances Ha, and it's apparently based on her life. So it feels realistic, but the ending is my only gripe, and the editing. I didn't like the editing too much. There were some weird choices with the editing. That didn't happen a lot, but it happens periodically where I was kind of thrown out. But it's still a very good movie. I recommend that you watch Lady Bird. It's a good written movie. You know, it's one of those movies that if you're a screenwriter, if you are uh, into like Academy Award winning movies, you're gonna enjoy it. So another movie that's on this list that a lot of people probably put it on their worst list of movies of 2017 is a movie called Cure for Wellness. And now you're gonna say, "What the hell is wrong with you? This movie was awful." I didn't hate this movie. I enjoyed it. I really liked it. It was original. People are saying that this movie was a ripoff of the movie called Shutter Island. It is not. It's a completely different story. The only things they have in common is that a guy is in a medical institution. The outcomes are very different, and the circumstances are, they have nothing in common outside of that. The acting is great. It was really original, and the cinematography was really good. If you haven't seen this movie, I've recommended the movie a couple of times, and I've gotten mixed responses. I recommended it to someone who I used to go to his video store all the time, and we have similar tastes in movies, but he didn't like it. He said it was really bad. And I recommended it to another buddy of mine who is also into movies, and he loved it. So it's kind of mixed. I personally liked it. I've seen it 2 times. Like I said in another video, I have to watch movies twice. The first time just to enjoy it, second time to pay attention to other plot points, details, and all that other stuff. I liked Cure for Wellness. I own it on Blu-ray. Um, Again, don't watch the trailers. Don't read anything on it, because there's some turns in this movie. This is directed by the guy who did the Pirates movies and the first Ring. It has that creepy element that he used in the Ring. It's not scary, but it's very creepy. It's some really creepy imagery. Um, Another one that I really liked, uh, and people are going to be saying like, "Why is this movie on your list?" I don't think this is a top movie of this year. But I saw this in theaters. I saw it in a screening. It was like a horror screening um, in O Cinema, and they screen a lot of like horror movies there. And one of them was called Super Dark Times. Super Dark Times, I saw it in a screening in O Cinema. They were showing a whole bunch of horror movies, and I was pleasantly surprised at how good this movie was. It's a group of kids. Mind you, I didn't see a trailer or anything, and I don't want you to see the trailer for this. But it's something that happens to a bunch of kids when they make a really dumb decision involving a sword. And that's all I'm going to say. But it plays on a lot of 90s nostalgia. The 80s is the whole thing now, but this one does 90s. And the acting from the kids is great. Um, it's one of those movies that I know most people are going to say it's very average. and it's fine. Everyone has different tastes in movies. I'm the type of person that when I see like, especially like I see like indie movies where everyone is acting so well, even if the story isn't that great and I see great acting, I'm captivated by it. So I really liked Super Dark Times. I don't care what anyone else says. Now we're gonna go into a bigger budget movie, John Wick Chapter Two. The first John Wick, everyone loved it. I still don't buy the whole story of him killing a whole bunch of people because his dog was killed. And I get it, his dog was his wife's last gift or whatever. But part two was really good. Part two explores the whole world of this underground people and whatnot. It was a very high action. Like, it's crazy how much stunt work Keanu Reeves does. Like, he does all this stuff, and there's videos out there showing him like doing training for this movie. Um, the I was never bored. I was actually surprised at how much amped like the action got towards the finale, and very well shot. You can tell that, especially the first sequence where um, he arrives with his car. You see like a short snippet of a Buster Keaton film. I'm not sure if it was the general, but you see a short snippet to show that these people are really appreciative of good stunt work and not CG. Uh, and Keanu Reeves is great as a character, and I like how the movie ends. I'm not going to reveal it, but I liked how the movie ended. Um, the next one was a movie that originally uh, I didn't hate it when I walked out. Again, this goes back to me watching movies more than once. It was a movie that I saw and I was like, you know what? I'm not sure if I like it. I was kind of confused with the ending, and that was Split. Um, I rewatched it not too long ago. I saw it back to back with Unbreakable, and I thought it was great the second time around. The That was a movie that um, has probably the best performance by James McAvoy. He did a great job with the characters because he plays 14 different personalities, and sometimes you don't know which personality is who, and it's so crazy. And then when you find out, spoilers. I mean, it's not really spoilers. This is just like letting you know that this is in the same universe as Unbreakable. It's not a twist. I don't know why people are saying it's a twist because the movie is over. Once the movie is over and it goes into credits, they show you a little snippet of Bruce Willis, and there are people in the theater saying, like, even a friend of mine was saying, like, "Oh, why is Bruce Willis there?" It's because it's part of um, the Unbreakable universe. And even when you hear the music, you're like, "Yeah, this is Unbreakable." But James McAvoy did a great job. The cinematography is really good. Um, the girl, I think her name is Anna Taylor Joy. I think that's her name. Correct me if I'm wrong. She was good. She was really good. And I kind of guessed her past really early on. Some people didn't because they show you flashbacks and they're like, oh, okay. And it was kind of you know weird, but I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it, I get it. But this is really good, and not many people put this on their top movies of the year. I thought this was a movie that came out in January, and people forgot about it. Even myself, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this was 2017. This is really, really good. So the next one, I know many people probably put it on their top 10, but they didn't put it this high, and that's Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok was a really fun movie. I walked in with no expectations. I didn't care too much about the other two, especially the second one. The second one was really bad. The first one was enjoyable. It was a comic book movie, but part three, it's unchained. Like it's just very comedic. It's lighthearted. It's having fun. And you can tell Chris Hemsworth is having fun with the character too. It was just one of those movies that, not since Doctor Strange, that I have so much fun with a Marvel movie. Because I'm kind of like this with the Marvel movies. There's some good ones. I think there's no terrible ones. Even Iron Man 2, I think, is just average. It's just very mediocre. I don't think it's terrible. Um, I'll tell you this much: I'd rather watch Iron Man 2 than Justice League. Um, but uh, Thor Ragnarok was amazing. Like I know some people who didn't like it, didn't like the tone of the movie, but I also know people who did enjoy it. So it's one of those movies again, kind of like the Cure of Wellness movie that I mentioned before, that it's divided. Um, Number three is Dunkirk. If you haven't seen Dunkirk, I recommend it. It's even if you're not a war fanatic, I'm not big on war movies. I still think the best war movie is Saving Private Ryan, and it's probably always going to be the best war movie. But Dunkirk does a good job in playing the realism of war, and it does it without dishonoring the memory of the people. It starts right away, gets you right into the action. People complain that there's not enough character development. Well, it's war, and it does it in a way where it's not like a Michael Bay movie. Like if you watch Pearl Harbor and you watch all those action sequences, it doesn't feel like a real war. It feels like a Michael Bay explosion fest. Here it feels like I'm in the era. I feel like I'm there with them. Um, it's one of those movies that I think with years people are going to see more of. Like they're gonna visit it because that happens with a lot of movies. Like I know it's up there in a lot of people's list, but I know a lot of people who still haven't seen it, and it's definitely worth checking out. Number two, I saw the trailer for this movie in theaters, and I was like, "Damn, this looks really good." But like most trailers, sometimes you watch the trailer and the movie ends up being pretty bad. Perfect example is Batman v Superman. You watch a trailer, you're hyped up, and the movie ends up being trash. Um, but this trailer ended up being a good movie. That was Get Out. Get Out was really good. Uh, I was impressed. It felt like a really long Twilight Zone episode and a very well done one. I like that the trailer didn't reveal too much. Some people say it revealed everything. I don't think it did. I don't think it did. Uh, there's so many twists and turns in this movie. The acting from everyone's great. I was always on the edge of my seat. This is horror done right. I think Jordan Peele is on a good road if he's going to continue doing movies like this. This is his directorial debut. And apparently he's going to be working on a Twilight Zone reboot, which is great. That's a good choice. Um, and I got this movie on physical media, on Blu-ray. It's definitely worth owning. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's people saying, oh, it's a racist film. I don't think it's a racist movie. Quite the contrary. By no means is it racist. It's there's a social commentary aspect to the movie, but it does it in a way where it's not preachy. Originally, the ending of that movie was very different, and it would have been preachy if they did that. But no, this is done in a kind of way where um, it's both a social commentary and it's a horror movie. I recommend people to check Get Out. But number one was a sequel that I didn't ask for, and I was hoping they would never touch this movie because there's some movies that shouldn't be touched. The Exorcist, Back to the Future, to name a few, The Godfather, and Blade Runner. I didn't want a Blade Runner sequel or reboot or anything of any kind, but we got one. And I was surprised at how good it was. Blade Runner 2049 is probably one of the best sequels that I've seen in a long time. I think it's one of those movies that, like the original Blade Runner, it's going to get more recognition and it's going to be viewed as a classic. When I saw it back to back with the original. I think the best version to watch of the original is the final cut. And once the sequel started, I'm like, this feels like a perfect connection to the world that we were introduced in the original. And Denis Villeneuve and Roger Deakins, that duo, did an amazing film. When you watch scenes in Blade Runner 2049, you're like you feel like you're in that world, in that futuristic world, and you can grab scenes from this movie, pause them, print it out, and you can put them up on your wall. It'll look really good. Um, I cared about every character in this movie. His girlfriend, who I won't reveal too much about her, but the things she does, you're like, this is amazing. And then when you find out, uh, not a twist, several, there's a couple of twists, and it leaves you with questions. And I'm even though people are saying that there's kind of like opportunity for a third movie, I hope they don't. You know, sometimes third is not the charm. I think they did a good job doing a sequel that I never thought would be made, um, and it was made, and it was made amazingly. Denis Villeneuve is one of those directors that like he hasn't made a bad movie yet. If you've seen Sicario, Arrival, Enemy, you'll see that he's a really amazing director, and this proves that this guy can do anything. If you watch Blade Runner 2049, you'll see that this guy is very talented. So I enjoyed this movie. I recommend you get it on Blu-ray. I'm gonna get it once it comes out, if it's not already out. I'm not sure. And what else? Yeah, these are the top movies that I saw. I saw many other movies in 2017, but these are the ones that I thought were the top for me. Let me know what were your favorite movies of 2017. It's been a long chat of the top 10 movies of this year. So until next time.